So what does it actually mean to be aligned? And then how do you remove the stuff that is essentially misaligned? Because by definition, you need to remove the misaligned items.
And it's so costly to spend a lot of time misaligned. So when I say aligned, I'm thinking of it as effectively we've identified our ideal for our business, our ideal for ourselves, our ideal for our family, our ideal for marriage, if you're married, your kids. You know your ideal, and that is the thing at the pinnacle. And then everything else comes, that's what I mean by coming into alignment. It's bringing in the business decisions, the business values, the hiring, the firing, the service offerings that you might bring in. It all comes into alignment under the superordinate principle of the ideal that you've created. And the ideal could be, this is our mission. But it's so clear. We know so clearly who we are, where we want to go, what our values are that support it, and an example of that is I've fired clients because they're not in alignment with their ideal. And that's been a hard decision. And obviously there's money on the table, but it actually can cost more money to not be aligned at the end of the day. And that's another question for your ideal. Is your ideal just to make a ton of money? Or is it actually to, like your grandfather, not end up dying early and live to 103? All of us have a different ideal.
And so so actually being those customers you fired, I'm sure you told them like you need to find alignment, like they hired you to maybe help them find alignment. And so where did they go wrong on knowing who they are? Like what part did they get wrong where you're like, I'm not going to work with you anymore because you actually don't want to be aligned, presumably?
This was very much so a value alignment. And so it was almost more so to do with who they are. You know, I've worked with a company, a home service business. They were at 35 million and we worked with them to get to the acquisition of other companies. And now they're on the trajectory of, they've been acquired and now they're up to making 250 million in the next 2 years. So you'd have to have a lot of alignment across many different facets to be able to build something that big. And so for them, this is an example of where we were aligned. I told them, I'm going to be showing you the truth and telling you the truth about your business. And effectively, you need to have the humility and the ability to see it and then be changed by the data that I'm going to be bringing you. And so effectively, before we even started working together, there was an agreement on, you got to be humble. I was coming in as a young female CMO, and it was a room full of older men. And I knew that I'd be telling them things that they didn't want to do. They had gotten to this point pretty much alone without doing real hard, boots on the ground marketing. And so I was like, if we really want to scale, if we really want to organize the books so that you can get acquired and get to this next level of business, there has to be change, and change is so uncomfortable. So there has to be a value alignment, but then also that's not just internal alignment, it's an action alignment too, where you actually have to be willing to make a change based off of the truth the data is showing us. So there's an internal and external alignment there. For the people that we fired, what ended up happening was we actually found that there was an internal misalignment, I guess, around emotional intelligence. And so there was effectively, and it's funny, this is my own sect, but the people that we fired have been women, like very A-type driven women.
Really? And it hasn't been the men, it's the women more unwilling to change.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. And I think it could be because I'm a woman. Maybe if they were working with a man, I have no idea. But what I've seen, this is now our third client that we're moving away from over the span of 5 years, right? So it's not it's a hard, tight personality of a woman, very A-type, and it is their way. And they're kind of, there's a resistance to, admitting when, yes, they agreed to something, and there's an element of looking in the mirror, Adam, that is an analogy that I'll use. When we don't like what we see in somebody else, or we don't like what we see in business, so often it has something to do with a reflection of ourselves. So even looking at the data, even looking at the numbers, what that might mean is that the president made a poor decision 2 years ago. And now we're facing the ramifications of that. But if they're not willing to acknowledge the poor decision that they made because it impacts how they're perceived, then they may actually not be willing to look in the mirror, so to say, and be willing to see the truth.